Thanks, Yvonne. Hi, everyone. Starting to feel a bit bad because I'm actually wearing slippers right now, but apparently that's not the way to go. But I am standing up, so hopefully that counteracts the slippers. So, yeah, hi, everyone. As Yvonne said, I'm Jenna, and I'm the Policy Manager for Physical Activity at Alzheimer's Society. It's a pleasure to join the webinar today and present about how we're supporting people to live well with dementia. It's great to see so many of you have joined. So today I'm going to cover what dementia is and who the Alzheimer's Society are. And then, as Yvonne said, I'm just going to delve into sort of a case study around physical activity and how we're supporting people living with dementia to be physically active. Okay, I'll just move to the next slide. So there are currently around 850,000 people in the UK living with dementia, and this is set to increase by to 1 million by 2025. So I just wanted to start off the presentation by asking you a question, and that is, what are the first words you think of when you hear the word dementia? So I've just popped that into the chat, and if you could just write some answers back to me, and I'll give you sort of 30 seconds or so, and I just want to have a look at what's coming through about the word dementia. Don't be shy. I've just had one so far, so if there are any more, please add them in. Have a think about what you think about with that word. Okay, great. Yeah, so lots of mentions of memory, some emotions there, so scared and sad, confusion, challenging, it's an honest one there, disorientated, loss, horror there. Yeah, lots of things coming through, and I hope you don't mind me saying, but the majority of those that are coming through are overwhelmingly negative, which is sort of what I was expecting. So you may worry that the words are mostly negative, but here are examples of what we've heard before and when we've asked people the same question in workshops. So very similar to the types of things that you're coming up, and perhaps some of the ones on the slide might seem a little bit more shocking. But you've done nothing wrong by using these words. It's these negative associations which really reflect how society often views dementia, and it shows us how important it is to work to change those perceptions and address the fear and the stigma of dementia, and to show that you still can live well with dementia. And just to say apologies there that some of my slides, that some of the formatting seems to have changed, so the titles have gone a bit small, so I hope you can still see them. Okay, thank you everyone for joining in there. So I just wanted to cover a bit about what dementia is, because we've all just sort of said what comes to mind when we think of the word dementia, but it's actually a very complex condition, and it can sort of vary from individual to individual. So I just wanted to sort of talk a little bit about what it actually means. So dementia refers to a set of symptoms that may include memory loss. Lots of you mentioned that in the chat. It can also include difficulties with thinking, problem solving or language, and also cause people's moods to change. In a person living with dementia, these symptoms are bad enough to affect daily life. Dementia isn't actually a disease in its own right. It's rather the symptoms that are caused by different diseases that affect the brain, including Alzheimer's or as a result of a series of strokes. It is a progressive disease, which means it will gradually get worse over time. So there are 5 key messages when it comes to dementia that we like to talk about. So firstly, dementia is not a natural part of ageing. And Muir Gray touched on this earlier in his presentation. This means that not everyone who grows old will develop dementia, and not everyone who develops dementia is old. Most people develop it after the age of 65, but some people under this age can also develop it. We refer to this as young onset dementia, and there are currently 40,000 people living with it in the UK. Secondly, dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. In the same way that any other organ can be damaged by disease, for example, the kidneys or the liver, dementia is caused when diseases physically damage the brain. So if you imagine the brain as a collection of fairy lights, each representing a memory, a skill or a function, if you now imagine that dementia is causing some of those lights to flicker or dim or switch off completely, for each person with dementia, this will happen in a different order and different lights will be affected. Number 3, dementia isn't just about losing your memory. So because it's about diseases affecting the brain, it can therefore affect any part of the brain. So we often see difficulties with communication, so forgetting words or using the wrong words for different things. So you may refer to a dog as a horse. We see difficulties with motor skills, so not being able to use cutlery, perhaps. Difficulties with sequencing, often we see difficulties with performing everyday tasks like getting ready, where people may put on 2 jumpers but no trousers. We see changes in inhibition, so someone may used to have been very shy and quiet, but after their dementia has onset, they may now be very outgoing, or the other way around. And we also see changes in vision sometimes, so things like judging distances can become a difficulty. So as any area of the brain can be affected, other functions of the brain could be affected by dementia too. And number 4, that's what we're here to speak about today, is it is possible to live well with dementia. So people with dementia may still be able to do the same things that they did before they were diagnosed, and that's really important to remember. They may still be able to work, to drive and have relationships, and what they can do and for how long will depend on their particular set of circumstances. Living well obviously means different things for different people, and we're not saying that dementia doesn't bring challenges, it does, but despite these, it's still possible to live well with dementia. And finally, there's more to the person than just their dementia. In the same way that we would look at someone with diabetes or cancer and see the person first, there's more to the person than their dementia. They still have hobbies, hopes, dreams, and a life, and they still deserve our respect. So who are Alzheimer's Society? So we are the UK's leading dementia charity. Our work covers 3 main areas. So firstly, we campaign for change. We're currently focusing on recovery and protection from COVID-19, quality social care and investment in dementia research. In particular, we're calling on the government to cure the care system. So we're campaigning for a care system that is fit for the future, one that provides quality care that is free and easy to access no matter where you live. Secondly, we fund research. We're the only charity in the UK who is funding research into how to prevent and find a cure for dementia, as well as research to improve life for people living with dementia today. There hasn't been a new drug for dementia introduced in 15 years, and the drugs that do exist can't slow it down or stop it from getting worse. There's no way to prevent dementia, and there's no cure yet. Our research centres of excellence focus on themes that really matter to people living with dementia, such as the best ways to support them after a diagnosis and how to live well, including being active, which we'll come on to next. And finally, we support people living with dementia today. So we have a wide range of support services to ensure nobody faces dementia alone. Things like Dementia Connect, our support line, and our online forum Talking Point, and we also have group support services too. So this leads me on to my area of focus, which is physical activity. How can this help people to live well? Well, several systematic reviews have identified that physical activity has the potential to improve both physical function and psychological well-being of people living with dementia. And this may be associated to help them to live well. Some recent studies have shown that exercise may improve memory and also slow down mental decline too. Other empirical studies have shown that people with dementia benefit from exercise interventions, with participants gaining improvements in strength, physical function, mood, self-esteem and well-being. And NICE guidance for people living with dementia recommends activity to improve well-being. But despite all of these benefits, we know that people living with a long-term health condition are twice as likely to be inactive, and this figure may be even higher for people living with dementia. The current data is limited, but we know that from one of our funded research partners who are running a large cohort study of people living with dementia, that upcoming data suggests that as many as 80% in their sample of people living with dementia are actually inactive. Almost 40% had dropped activities since receiving their diagnosis, and this was even higher for people living alone at 60%. So dementia is a complex condition, and every person and every dementia is different, which I hope you gathered from the way it can affect the brain in so many different ways. And a range of factors can contribute to the reasons why a person living with dementia might have different activity levels. So we've looked at the data that's available, which has explored the different barriers and motivators to physical activity for people living with dementia. Some of these are shared with the general population, such as a lack of motivation or confidence, but some are specific to having a long-term condition or specific to having dementia itself. And some of the barriers related specifically to having dementia are presented here and include physical limitations due to their dementia, cognitive impairments due to their dementia as well, so not being able to remember exercises or actions or activities, struggling to follow instructions, and confusion. Lack of social support, including discouragement from loved ones due to perhaps safety concerns, or carers may also restrict opportunities by typically taking on more domestic roles, so people become less active at home or in their everyday life. So just like Mia mentioned at the beginning with relatives organising shopping deliveries, we may think that's very helpful, but actually we really want to encourage people to remain independent for as long as they can so that they can continue to live well. Lack of understanding from others about the effects of dementia and the fear of judgment from others in society always also comes up as a barrier, as well as a lack of opportunities or the lack of perception around the opportunities available. So some programmes may require a care partner to be present, which isn't always feasible. And some people may be unable to leave the house alone, thus limiting some of their opportunities. Some individuals with dementia may also have difficulties adapting to a change in routine. And I suppose that could go both ways as being a barrier and a motivator, depending on how active they were previously. And as has been sort of touched on in the presentation before, which Hilary did about COVID, is that many of these on how active they were previously. I think, and as has been. Oh yeah, sorry, I think someone just joined and it wasn't on mute. So many of these barriers have been compounded by the pandemic. So lockdowns have limited opportunity to be outside. And with the restrictions now eased, people may want to avoid busy areas or places. Or they may be concerned about new processes that may be in place, for example, advanced booking and cleaning down equipment. Despite all those barriers, there are also some motivators and facilitators that support people living with dementia to be active. And I was actually speaking to a lady yesterday who has dementia, and she always used to go swimming before the pandemic. And she was saying that because the just worry around COVID, she stopped going swimming. So one of her friends suggested to her, why don't we go sea swimming? Which I just thought was amazing. And she'd been sea swimming with her friend, and they supported each other. And that's now the way that she's going to keep active. Whilst the weather allows, I suppose. But yeah, I just thought it was brilliant to see that someone is able to find a way to be active. And I think she is she has very high self-efficacy, and she obviously has that social support in place, and she's been able to find a new way. So I suppose it's about turning some of those motivators around and seeing how we can support people. But yeah, I was really touched by that story there. It was really nice to hear. So some of the other motivators and facilitators that we've seen in the literature include people living with dementia being aware of and feeling the physical and mental and social benefits. Unsurprisingly, just like the story I just told, social support is a really big one. So having someone to exercise with or for example, a dog, helps people to be active, and carers can also provide support by being a chaperone. Other people's understanding of dementia helped people to feel supported too. And interestingly, time came up as a facilitator in a study that looked at people living with dementia in care homes, as they found physical activity a good way to pass the time. And people living with dementia also report that specific guidance on what's appropriate would help them. So we know that the majority of people living with dementia aren't active enough to sufficient levels, and there are many barriers and facilitators that stop them from being active or help them. So I just wanted to cover a little bit about what we're doing at the Society to make this change and to help people live well with their dementia. So we've been partnered with Sport England since 2018, and we've recently entered into a new phase of that partnership. So during the first couple of years of our partnership, our work focused on supporting the sport and physical activity sector to become more dementia friendly. This was before my time, so my colleague Steve led on this work, and it resulted in a practical guide for the sector, which aims to inform and educate individuals and organisations so that they have a better understanding of dementia and how it might affect people. It also provides lots of tools and guidance so that the sector can help people affected by dementia to lead more active lives. The guide can be downloaded on our website for free, and I'll pop the link into the chat box at the end. So since then, our partnership has evolved with Sport England, and in January we kicked off a new programme of work, which has actually taken a step back from that initial very focused work on the sport and physical activity sector, which was a great success. The new programme is led by myself, so I started in May, and my colleague Steve, who's been around since the beginning of the partnership with Sport England, and we sit within our policy team at the Society. This change was strategic, so that we can ensure that physical activity becomes part of our policy strategy and determine how people living with dementia to be helping people with dementia to be active can support our other areas of policy work, which are around quality and cost of care, health integration and personalisation, and also sector engagement. And this links really nicely to what Mia said at the beginning about reducing the need for health and social care. So we really want to understand how we can support that with physical activity and dementia. Our new programme of work focuses on three main strands. So firstly, research. We've commissioned an evidence review, which is being completed by Brunel University London. The review will consider two questions, firstly around the prevalence of physical inactivity and the experiences of people living with dementia of being active. And the second will look at the evidence of the potential benefits and harms of being active for people living with dementia, both at that individual level and the wider societal level as well. Alongside this, we're completing insight gathering with people living with dementia and their carers to understand those barriers and motivators more, so we can try to see which ones are the most prevalent, which ones are the most important, and which ones are, I suppose, the most changeable, so that we can really understand from lived experience and know how we can support those things to change that need to change. Secondly, the next phase is our innovation phase. So we will be commencing this next month in November, which I can't believe it's November next month, but it is. Time is flying. We will be taking all of that insight that we've gathered and working with our in-house innovation team to define a very specific challenge that stops people living with dementia to be active. We'll work with them using behavioural science to guide the intervention development. So we're looking to use the behaviour change wheel to find an evidence-based solution to the challenge. We'll then be testing this and evaluating it and seeing sort of what the next steps are after that. And our final strand of work is influencing. So this is around both internal influencing to ensure physical activity is high on the agenda for our charity, but also developing our external policy position and how we join up as a whole policy team to make life better for people living with dementia. All of our work is supported by various working groups, including a Dementia Voice advisory group, to ensure that our work is grounded in the needs of those it's designed to help. We're also in the process of setting up an external expert advisory group with experts from dementia care, physical activity and behaviour change backgrounds to help check and challenge our strategic direction. So if you're listening today and you think that sounds like you, please get in touch. We're looking for members, so we'd be really interested to hear from you. And as well as our specific Sport England programme, we're also working closely with the Richmond group of charities, which you may be aware of. So we're a group of 13 health and care charities that come together to work on specific aims and collaboration, including physical activity through our Movement for All collaboration. You may be familiar with the We Are Undefeatable campaign, which launched in 2019. It's a campaign that's focused on supporting people living with long-term conditions to build physical activity into their everyday lives. We've been closely involved in the campaign right from the beginning, and we've involved people living with dementia both in the development of the campaign and its delivery as well. We've also been working with the other charities recently to develop a set of physical activity videos for people living with long-term conditions to complete at home, and these will be launched in the next few weeks, so watch this space. And I've seen some comments in the chat about how we can support people living in their own homes to be active who may be isolated as well, so that may be part of the solution for people who are at home too. So we're really looking forward to seeing what our work brings. As I said, we're very much sort of in an evidence and insight gathering stage at the moment of the sort of the preliminary stages of the project, but I'm really excited to see what comes of it and how we can support people to live well with dementia. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, if you've got any questions, we'd be very happy to try and answer them either now or at the end. Thank you.